Hi there, this is Jay here from Jeremy Jacob Letting Specialist. So today I would like to tell you about a company that I used to work for called Foxtons. So I was quite interested by this. I went and did a little YouTube around on Foxtons, and there wasn't really much information on accounts or what it was like to work at Foxtons. So I thought, why don't I do that? I spent a significant period at Foxtons, got great memories of working at Foxtons. I also, to be honest, the foundation, the best training I probably got as a salesperson was from Foxtons. But the interesting thing about Foxtons, if you go looking through YouTube, there's a lot of silly little videos, maybe sort of critical points on Foxtons, and this is nothing new to me. It was something that I was, we as employees had to go through when we worked at Foxtons. And looking back on it now, I think in balance it was due to the company being, if not the biggest hitter of a London estate agents, and you go around with a target on your back and people are going to hate. So, you know, if you go Googling about the company, I think the company's changed a lot over the years. In what is its heyday, you could argue it's still in its heyday. You know, in terms of the company's maturity, it's having a heyday. But, you know, there are certain articles, journalists trying to uncover things about Foxtons in the past. But let me tell you this, you could find this possibly in lots of different estate agents. So I'm just going to be really balanced about that. So yes, let me tell you about Foxtons. So I spent a good 3 to 4 years at Foxtons. It was before they were brought out. So there was the original owner of Foxtons, John Hunt, who is now a billionaire and has amassed some serious fortunes over the years. So I worked there when he was still the guy, and culturally, the insight I had into the company then is probably a lot different to how it is now. I still think that the fundamentals of what Foxtons is about is still in place, but I think the company's probably matured over the years and it's mellowed a little bit. So Foxtons, I think, uniquely to other estate agents, was also a sales organization. It was run like a sales outfit in terms of recording data, metrics, targets. Very different to any other estate agent. Other estate agents will try and do their best. A basic level, if you walk into any estate agency, is let's put your deals on a whiteboard, and you can see at the top the deals that have been done for the month. That might be it. That might be all that happens. Okay, so when you go into Foxtons, yeah, you'd have the whiteboard, but you'd also have a central intranet which showed everyone's picture, how much they've banked, and what they needed to achieve to get certain targets. There were car targets, there were special trip targets. I remember a target to get a Mont Blanc pen. Oh yeah, there was targets to get £50 notes on a Friday. So there were lots of different things crossing each other, so that, you know, maybe the value of what you were doing wasn't as high as you want it to be, but the number of deals you were doing was good. And yeah, they were very good at keeping you engaged. You had to work hard though, very hard. So a typical day for me when I was at Foxtons, once I was you know, settled there, it was typical for me to turn up at 8 o'clock. I had this thing about wanting to be, if not the first in, Just did. I'd go swimming in the morning, and then I'd get to the office just after 8 o'clock. Everyone would pile in about 8:30. In that time I would have had a bit of breakfast, just sat at my laptop, just, you know, a bit of chill before all the hysteria happened. There was a lot of hysteria because the banter would kick off pretty promptly once everyone had arrived. And there was a lot of banter at Foxtons. I'm not sure if some of the banter would pass in this day and age. I don't know, maybe it would. A very balanced mix of male and females in the office. And yeah, so I would get in at 8, meeting starts at 8:30, and there'd be sort of a pitch by the manager. They normally stand up the front, and they've got to do their big pitch for the day. They've got to, you know, get everyone pumped up and ready. You know, go and smash a coffee, go to Starbucks after this meeting, and then get straight on the phones, hit those phones, baby. And we did what's called a call out between 9 and 12 o'clock. You're not allowed to do anything else. The call out is just to call people and find out about their property search. Very special tailored qualification process about Foxtons, and this is where some of the training there is the best. So you qualify people on exactly what they were looking for. There were some pertinent questions to ask, and this would ensure that you don't waste your time and you're efficient and you get to the crux of what's going on, which is, let me just recall some of the questions. When do you need to move? What is your budget? Furnished or unfurnished? What would you pay for perfection? It's a very cheesy phrase, but I think what they're doing at Foxtons there is trying to understand what your real budget is. Is there anything you wouldn't compromise on, was another question. So that's where it's an opportunity for a prospective tenant to say, I must have a garden. Okay, well therefore everything I show you will have a garden. We'll exclude the budget because you said you need a garden. And that's where the skill comes in at Foxtons of being clever there. So yeah, we would do a call out 9 to 12, and then 12 to 2, you would go out on viewings, and then 2 to 4, you're back in the office to do more of a freestyle afternoon, which consists of paperwork, tying up deals. And if you haven't got any deals to talk about, you're pretty much doing a call out again. And then between 4 and 8 o'clock, yes, I was working from 8 essentially in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, and the rest. I'll get to that in a sec maybe. Opportunity to go out and do further viewings, and then we close at 8 o'clock. So I remember it wasn't great for me, my health. I remember there were occasions where I was doing viewings at 10 o'clock at night, trying my absolute best to achieve more in the office. So what Foxtons were good at, and I don't know what it's like presently today, but the fundamentals are still there. And that is negotiators in an office, several. I mean, in my heyday, it went up to as large as maybe 14, 15 negotiators. There's this board, and it's a big time meritocracy there. Everyone knows who's number one on the board, all the way to the very end, who's last. And if you're last, okay, you can have a bad month. If you're bad, last again the second month, and by the third month, if you're last, you're probably on the way out. Either you've realised the job is not for you, or the manager realises that you're not producing enough income for the company, and therefore it's probably better if you're out and someone else new is in. Bums on seat was a phrase I remember at Foxtons. Okay, so yeah, this is the leaderboard. Now, I did a good 3 to 4 years at Foxtons, and I like to say I did my time in the military because it was quite militant the day. It's very disciplined. I'll say this again and again. I've worked in jobs where I feel that the day is just dragging on and on, like in retail. You stand at the front desk, at a cash desk, and you can't really go anywhere. You've got to do your time there, wait for your break. But with Foxtons, as structured as it was, because it was extremely structured, you could at least go out and the manager expected you to go out, because if you didn't have any viewings, you better be hitting the phones. And if you're in the office not hitting the phones and you're hanging around, horsing around with colleagues that don't have anything to do, then the manager will look at you and give you a look to say, really? Are you wasting your time? Should you be here? Are you good enough for this job? So sometimes, even if you didn't have a viewing to do, it's just best to leave the office. Use it as an opportunity to go for a breather, go walk around the block, go and do some shopping. I'm serious, do some shopping and come back. I mean, at least just look like you've been out doing something. Managers hated to see you in the office when you were out during those allotted times. You should be doing viewings. And if you weren't doing viewings, you should be just making a real conscious effort to hit the phones in front of the manager. If they picked up that you weren't doing those, and you're slipping down the leaderboard, you better watch out. Your time is borrowed, basically. It's numbered, sorry. Your time is numbered, maybe. So I saw a lot of people coming and going in the 3 to 4 years. There was just always an percentage of people that were in the bottom percent, and it just wasn't for them. And the thing is with Foxtons, because they were looking for charisma in people, they were looking for hungry people, and it didn't matter if you didn't have any experience. That was fine. So you could get the gig at Foxtons if you were likable, you were bubbly, positive, and there was just something about you. But what came with that sometimes was personalities that just were not suited for the job, that when they left, they went on to do other careers, like doing good for the world, like animal carers, teachers, just things like that, just things that just a bit more you feel like you're going to get more out of this world. But everyone's got to make a decision about what they want to do in life, and somewhere like Foxtons can help you quickly get that eureka moment. So it'd be quite normal for staff members to do maybe just 6 months, and then they would either go, I can't do this anymore, or they would just be encouraged maybe it was time to move on. So I know I did really well at Foxtons in terms of the average. I was above average always. I was never number one on the board smashing it. That went to a certain couple of creme de la creme people, and you had to really work hard to be in that top number one spot and keep it. It's very difficult to keep it, but the thing is with Foxtons is a big time meritocracy, and they like to keep feeding the winner. So if you're on a winning train, you will keep winning, because they'll make sure that the best person is getting the more complicated prospective tenants or landlords to deal with, and the hot ones. So they're more likely to keep banking high income. But if you get just like a footballer, striker scoring goals, if you get a dry run, then the manager might look to the next person in the office and go, you know what, that person's on the come up. I'm going to feed that baby now. And that's where it can change ship. And you would often find that the person that was number one and got it quite cushy for a long time then might start to get a little bit resentful, feeling a little bit aggrieved, and that's nothing other than a problem of maybe a mindset problem. And that could be another reason why sometimes that type of negotiator, the sort of little star of the office, would go, you know what, I'm too good for this place, I need to move on. And maybe because they just had done their time in the office, and it was time to move on. Well, one thing I would say is that Foxtons always catered towards younger people, because they didn't expect any experience, and I think they knew that the hours and what was expected, it was very much like a lifestyle, 8 till 8, work and play balance. You worked hard, you played hard. It all happened at Foxtons. I would say this, Foxtons, it was a great place for young people to go. You quite likely to fall in love whilst you're at Foxtons. I've known lots of colleagues that have started relationships in Foxtons, maintained them, and gone on to be married and have really happy marriages, and I've even known people that have left Foxtons, and there seems to be of recent more people actually who used to work at Foxtons in my day, my era, and who have decided to go back to the company, which is really interesting. So the company's definitely changing. But so the company traditionally was built on a big time meritocracy. It wanted to reward people that did extremely well, and they would be put on a little bit of a pedestal, and it was set up that you would always naturally want to have more. So if you were a top negotiator, you would then be thinking, I want to be a valuer, which is like a halfway house of a negotiator and a manager. A valuer is preparing you for being a manager, because then you start to deal with all of the landlords rather than all of the tenants and the viewings, and then you start to oversee the negotiators. So you'll have your property, your basket of properties, you deal with those landlords, you're always staying in touch with them, and then you're motivating your negotiators to view your stuff. Say, hey, my stuff, go and view my stuff. So it's very much a bridge between the manager and setting you up to become a manager. I always compared Foxtons to this. Formula One meets the Big Brother house. Now, I know the Big Brother show is no longer on, so if you're a younger person, you might be going, what is Big Brother? But if you go and Google it, it was a famous show on for many years where contestants were put in a house with cameras on them all day, and they just followed around 24/7, and a lot of scenarios put in front of them, and the object is to win popularity vote and to win Big Brother based on a public vote. So why are you comparing to Foxtons to the Big Brother house? Well, in the office, there was a camera in every office. We had about, let's say, 50 offices across London, and each office had a camera in the lettings team and the sales team, which went up to head office. And this is where Foxtons was totally unique to the other estate agents, because the other estate agents didn't have a head office like Foxtons do, and to this day a lot don't. The head office still remains in Chiswick Park, and it's a very impressive office, huge glass fronted building, lots of water fountains around it, and there were big hub teams up there supporting teams. So you had property management, for example. You had the cold callers that would go after landlords and book them in for the valuers. So the valuer wouldn't actually have to do anything in that regard. They would just receive an email from a team, I think they're called the pod, and the pod would be saying, look, valuer, I've booked you, I've spoken to this landlord, it's been a minute, I'm sending you out on this valuation. And the valuer would go out onto the valuation, and just got to kill the game, I guess, score that goal in the moment, get that instruction on. Okay, so yeah, I compare it to the Big Brother house because you've got cameras in each office, and it's kind of weird because like the members at head office would like know if you were in or out of the office. So if they saw you in the office, they'd ring you. You get to know some of the people up at head office because you go and meet them. You'd see them when we have bigger meetings, and you might have a chat, a bit of banter, build some relationships. But some would want to actually speak to you for serious reasons, for updates and things. And so, it was just, in that regard, it was really ahead of its time, Foxtons, in terms of like, if you think about the sort of video, Instagram, Facebook sort of state that we're in these days, where like surveillance state, that's the phrase I'm looking for, where you can be monitored so easily now. And here's the thing, because everyone works so hard and really long hours, Foxtons was really interesting because what their strategy was traditionally is they would pay you a low basic. I know that's changed a lot now, but it was a very low basic then. And they would give you a car, a Mini, which was really cool. So if you're a youngster in your 20s and you get given a car, you think, fantastic. You wouldn't have to pay for your insurance. Foxtons covered it. They would pay for most of your petrol. You'd have to do some really serious miles if you went over the allocation. So basically your petrol was covered for. They give you a mobile phone and the subscription to the mobile phone, all sorted, a laptop. And that psychologically gave you a lot of sort of feeling of independency, knowing that you had all those covered. You didn't have to worry about it and stress. Obviously, the stress is doing the deals, because if you don't, you'll lose all of it. And you kind of really looked after in that regard. So you work all these really long hours. You're around people for a really large part of the day. And by the way, the gig was Monday to Friday and every Saturday, I think it was. Was it every other Saturday? But still, if it was your Saturday, after a long week of doing 12-hour days, coming in on that Saturday, which was reduced from like 10 till 4, but you just could do without it, and not much really happened. But anyway, we had to do it. So you do all this time. It's like a pressure cooker. You're around young people, and you get quite close with everyone, and you have all these perks, and then you might decide as you mature there that I need to go out into the big world and explore and try different things. Making the decision for some people to leave Foxtons was really difficult. It's like you're caught into a bubble, and if you would leave, because I remember leaving, you spend such a high, intense amount of time with people that when you leave, it's like you have a real big come down. Like you've left this. It's a little bit like when you leave the Big Brother house. They come out the house and they're almost like, I want to go back in. Like, you just feel that you're just a bit shocked. It's like a shock to the system. It's like, I'm released back into the real world now. So Foxtons reminded me of that, and I know a lot of people that left Foxtons initially would actually just feel a little bit numb, actually, because they didn't know what to do next. Some just had to leave out of desperation. They didn't have next jobs lined up, anything like that. Okay, so that's that. I'm making it sound like it was horrible, but it was fine. It was lovely. We had a blast. Trust me, we had a lot of fun there. Formula One. Okay, let me tell you why Foxtons was probably and possibly still is a bit like Formula One. We all like watching Formula One, and we have our favourite drivers, and we all know that if you drive the best cars, you've got a much better chance of winning. And what happens is, over time, you're the best driver, you're the man, and then something happens and you go down the pecking order, and then you still get a gig in Formula One, but you're having to drive on a more subpar team, and someone younger is chomping at your bits, and they want a piece of the action, and they want to take your spot. Foxtons are very much set up like that. And this is why I specifically compare it to Formula One. So I worked in a suburb office, and what happens is you get into the suburb office and you can see all around the company who's doing what figures. And there was a famous lady in the Sloane Square office of Foxtons. I've forgotten her name now. Her bankings were like huge compared to us in the suburb office. We would look at that and go, hang on a minute, we don't get the opportunity to make this type of money because they're working in central London, they're working in South Kensington, they're working in Notting Hill. I want to go there. And what would happen is someone would have a little rant to the director, and the director of our region would be having none of it. Rightly so, his focus is to look after that region, which would be, it was like suburb offices on the west. So it included like Chiswick, Acton, Ealing, etc. Yeah, once we'd been there for a minute, we would realise quite quickly that your potential to earn money in central London was a no-brainer. I want to go and work in central London. So you'd have a little rant to the director's not having any of it, saying it's all up here's mindset. But you're not stupid. You realise that you're in a lesser performing car, right? Just like Formula One. And there are some fortunate people that they're in central London and they're smashing it, and they're driving the Ferrari and the Mercedes. So if you couldn't get, you very occasionally you get the odd person that would get moved over into central London. Otherwise, you just had to lump it. And that was another reason why a lot of people would leave. So I'm going to be honest, I eventually decided to leave Foxtons because I realised that I was in the suburbs office and I was attracted by the glamour and the allure of working in central London, and I wanted to go and be in Chelsea, Kensington. So I made the tough decision to leave Foxtons, and I went to join a much different company, more of a corporate style company, very different, and it all worked out. So I ended up doing that. I ended up going into I went into central London, and it was very exciting, very different though. And what I would say is that transactions in the suburbs, you can do far more rental transactions. The value of them will be less, but if you go into central London, you're dealing with much different type of owners, high net worth clients, and they have a different mindset. They might not necessarily be as motivated to rent their property out, and therefore they'll hold firm on waiting for the right offer to come along. They might be a little bit more picky in terms of the type of offer they want, type of caliber of tenant, and you know, it's not unusual for a client of ours in Kensington and Chelsea to leave their property vacant for maybe up to 6 months, 9 months, seen a year. It's not unusual. You are left sometimes scratching your head thinking, what's all this about? It would make just pure sense to get rental revenue, but you know, with high rentals come more demanding tenants. Often comes with some really highly associated costs. Everything costs more to maintain, and sometimes an owner might just look at a situation and go, you know what, this is more hassle than it's worth. So Foxtons, Formula One, Meritocracy, Big Brother house. So I've got great memories there. I think the company's changed a lot now. I think the thing that I will point out with Foxtons is that when you join Foxtons as a trainee, I think, you know, if you come in at the start, you are trained excellently, better than anyone else in any other estate agent in a singular field. So you'll be given quite a narrow job description. So if you come in as a negotiator, it's here's the applicants, qualify them, go and do the viewings. When you do the deal, there'll be a lot of support in line with the valuer and head office. You won't get to talk to a landlord, you won't get any exposure to landlords. And so there comes a point where you have to go, I need to break free from this, I need to evolve, I need to get a better balance of doing a varied job role in lettings. So this is where Foxtons can limit you. There's nothing wrong with it, but the training, the discipline that you'll take with you into the next job you do, you will find, and as I did, I left Foxtons, I went into my next job, and I was definitely one of the more balanced type of personalities in Foxtons. I like to class myself as a bit of an omnivert, which is a cross between, you know, introvert and extrovert. I could definitely know when to just be quiet. In Foxtons, you're around some serious gregarious people. Like they just, like their chat, their confidence is like next level. And I'd be sometimes in awe going, I can't make an impression in this company, because some people are just like, their personalities can just be seen from like miles away, and you know, how am I going to cut through this? But when I left, I went and joined this sort of corporate company, very warm, cuddly feel, much more mature environment. I realised within the first few weeks, I thought, I think they think I'm really aggressive, unnecessarily aggressive. I was just being assertive, but I just wanted to be like, come on, let's make things happen. And they'd be just like, whoa, horsey, just slow your roll down. But it was when I went on to my next corporate company, I learned far more experience, wider experience in terms of speaking with landlords, etc. But it was more refinement, airs and graces. That's what I learned. Foxtons is known for being a bit more, slam dunk, a bit more brashy. Nothing wrong with that. It's just what is your cup of tea, I guess. So yeah, Foxtons will teach you in a sort of more narrow capacity, but the training will be amazing. It's brilliant. I think that anyone that wants to get into estate agency, whether it's sales or rentals, and maybe it's one of your first jobs. I did a sales job before I went to Foxtons because I didn't have my car permit, so I had to do a sales job where I was in a call centre, sort of booking appointments for people on the road of. It was a cash machine organisation. Then I got my driver's licence. I was like, right, I want to go and be an estate agent. I think that it's a great place to start. You could do 6 months and leave, but I think maybe doing 1 to 2 years is better. I think it's good on the CV to show that you've managed to stick with it. Everyone knows it's quite a very competitive environment. I believe that the hours now of expected to work to 8 o'clock have changed a lot. I think they've mellowed out. I think they've become a little bit more mindful of family or of people with families. I certainly wondered when I worked there how females, if they wanted to have children, could do the hours of 8 to 8, and then there was a way around it. You'd have to go and work in head office, but head office was a very different job role, and personally at the time I felt like it was a bit unfair in that regard, that a female might have to make the decision to go to head office, especially if they're in an office which is sort of on the other side of London, because their head office is in Chiswick. So if you're in East London, that's a different challenge there. But I think stuff like that's really changed now. I think that they're very inclusive now. I believe that on Mondays they finish earlier, Fridays they finish earlier, and the most of the negotiators can leave by about 7 o'clock now. So yeah, things have changed, but I definitely know that the fundamentals of what they're about, the sales training, the whole point of staying in touch with people, qualifying them. Everyone always finds a place to rent. If you are in touch with them, be their best friend. Qualify them, really understand what makes them tick, find out what they're looking for, get in their head a little bit in a nice way, and it's all about just finding solutions for people. So yeah, I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into Foxtons. I've tried to be fair and balanced. I think it was a great company to work for at the time. Could I go back there as an older person? Well, possibly. In a senior role capacity, but obviously we make our decisions of what we do in life. I'm very happy at Jeremy Jacob. We're on a mission to try and do things a little bit differently as a letting only agency, and really carve out our niche as an expert in a singular field. So that's it for now, and maybe give you another story, some more tips and tricks and insight into being in the lettings industry soon. Okay, bye now.